Welcome to How to Be a Couple with me, your host, Giuliano Gramado. Do you blame your partner for the problems in your relationship, for the quality of your relationship? Do you think to yourself, man, my partner, they always are doing, X, Y, Z. And if they just would change that, everything would be fine. Well, if you've ever thought that, you're not alone. It is the default, I would say, for most people to play the victim. And this isn't meant to point fingers at you or make you feel bad or anything like that. Um, this is something that I would say most people do in most areas of their life by default. And the reason is because it feels good, right? When you are the victim, when you play the victim, or if you are actually the victim, um, it means it's not your fault. It means you don't have to change anything. It means that the issues that you're having are outside of your control and you get to just complain about them and not improve. And again, this can all sound like a judgment of you or whoever is playing the victim at the time, but we all do this in some aspect of our life, or at least some of us have in the past. That's okay, right? This is not meant to make you feel bad, but it's meant to help you shift your perspective around that belief. Okay. Is being the victim better long term? Because ultimately it's not, right? Playing the victim feels good in the moment because you don't have to take responsibility. You don't have to look at yourself. You don't have to change. You don't have to do anything different. It's all on the other person. Like in this scenario, right? We're talking about relationships, obviously. Um, but if you're able to shift that perspective, not to blame yourself, but to say, if it was in my power to make this better, what would I do? This is the thing. And part of the issue with not taking responsibility, with being the victim in the relationship, is that we're allowing our happiness to be controlled by someone else. And we have to wait for them to fix it, right? If that's our perspective and we're the victim, it feels good in the moment because it's like, oh, it's not on us. But then you begin to realize, wait a second, if that is the case, I can't be happy unless this person changes. Our relationship can't be fixed unless this other person fixes it. And ultimately, that person is separate from us, right? They're outside of us, they're external. And even though we might be able to have an influence over things outside of us, we don't have control over it. And so the most empowering, and if you remember in the last episode, I talked about this, I don't actually care what's true. Okay. I care what works. So what I'm saying here is that even if maybe your partner is part of the problem or a big part of the problem or the main problem, okay? Even if that is true, does it work? Does having that perspective of the relationship work? Does it make it better? And the answer is no, right? Because again, you don't have control over what other people do. This is true of life, but also true in relationships. And so I think it's important that we talk about this. You have to be willing to take responsibility for the experience that you are having in your life, but specifically in this scenario, your relationship. The quality of your relationship is equal to the quality of your experience in it. Okay. I've said this a lot in my content on Instagram. Your perception of your relationship is the relationship. Okay. Again, remember before I don't necessarily care what's true. Okay. Obviously to a certain degree I do. But what I'm saying is that if you have I've laid this out with my wife before because I think it's a good example. If you are married and you're married for 60 years and you're on your deathbed and you're like, wow, this was just an amazing relationship. And, my husband was amazing and it was beautiful and he loved me so much and I can die happy. And you die. Okay. You had a great relationship, right? Fantastic. Now, what if after he dies, it comes out that from the moment you guys were married, he was sleeping with other women. Right now, you know about it, right? Because I'm telling you. But you would have died happy believing that you guys had an amazing relationship. Now, I'm not excusing that behavior or saying that that's okay, but my point is to prove that the quality of your relationship is the quality of your experience in it. It's the quality of your perception of it. Okay? Because if you died not knowing that, you would just be like, that was an amazing relationship. You had a great experience. So, and you felt loved, right? You went through that experience and you felt not just that it wasn't just like this like ignorance, right? You went through it and you felt loved. You died feeling fulfilled, despite the fact that maybe that relationship wasn't what you wanted it to be, right? If you had known the truth, you would have ended it and you'd have thought it was terrible and he was a liar and all these things. So I'm not for lying to people, okay? I definitely don't want that. But I'm just proving the point that the quality of a relationship is based on your perception of it. Okay. And your experience, your perception of the relationship comes from your own thoughts. It comes from the stories that you tell in your mind, the reactions that you have. And what that means is that you have more power than you think, right? So you don't have power over your partner. Okay. You can't make them do anything, but what you can control or your own thoughts and your own actions, how you interpret what happens, what you focus on, what you allow to have meaning, what you allow to affect you, what issues you choose to address and what you choose to let go. Again, this is not saying that your partner's behavior doesn't matter. I'm not saying that you should be staying in a relationship that's like toxic or abusive or unhealthy. What I'm saying is that your peace, right? Your experience in the relationship is not something that needs to be held hostage by the other person. Okay. Your experience in the relationship is up to you. You interpret your relationship in your own mind. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that you need to lie to yourself, but if you're able to shift your perspective and take responsibility for the relationship, regardless of what your partner does, you can have a different experience. Now, do you want your partner to enjoy the relationship too? Of course. Right. It's not just about your experience. And we're definitely going to talk about that in another episode about how to influence your partner's experience for the better, right? How to make them feel loved. But this is the question that this whole episode is leading to. Okay. If your partner never changed, if it was 100% up to you, what would you do to have a great relationship? What would have to happen for you at the end of your life to be like, that was an amazing relationship, even if your partner never changed, right? The power in this question is realizing that you are the one that has control over your thoughts, over your perceptions, over your actions, over your experience. You having a good experience or not is not dependent upon your partner. Again, disclaimer, please, please. This does not apply to situations where someone is being abusive, okay? It does not. It's just if you're unhappy. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I made that disclaimer. But remember the question, if your partner never changed and if it was 100% up to you, what would you have to do to have a great relationship? That if you guys stayed together until the day you died, for you to be like, man, that was beautiful. That was an amazing relationship. And here's the kicker with this is that this is actually possible, right? You might hear that and scoff and be like, shut up, dude. Like, what? Come on. Like, my partner does this. My partner does that. There's no way I could be happy and fulfilled if he never changes that. Okay. Well, then maybe you need to get out of the relationship. Okay. But if you really put yourself up to the task of answering that question, I'm going to encourage you to actually sit down and write this out if you have to. If you're the type of person that's just writing this off, sit down, write it out if you have to. Because what this is doing is shifting your perspective. It's putting the power back into your hands, saying that the experience of this relationship is up to you, right? So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to be able to say, man, this is a great relationship? Because it's possible. So that's what your assignment is for today. Answer that question for yourself. And if you want personalized relationship coaching from me, send me a DM on Instagram at how to be a couple that says waitlist. I will be sure to add you to the list and let you know when a slot opens up. Talk to you soon.